Welcome to Podcast 83, a regular look at the news, stories, and trends related to Michigan's 83 counties from the Michigan Association of Counties.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Podcast 83, the podcast put on by the Michigan Association of Counties. As typical, we are joined by Deena Bosworth, Samantha, Gibson, and Madeline Fata. This week, we have not a lot to go over, but we do have some updates to talk about. First up, Madeline, you want to talk a little bit about the binding arbitration legislation that had some movement over the past week?
Sure. So we've been talking about this quite a bit this year. I think it's a reintroduction of a bill that's been talked about maybe 6 years in a row, I believe. It's the expansion of PA 312 binding arbitration beyond just police and fire. It's going to include county corrections officers as well. It moved through the House, I think before summer break, with a vote of 88 to 18. And it advanced through the Senate Labor Committee last week, a unanimous vote of support from the 4 committee members. There was a substitute in committee that will expand it to all MCOL certified law enforcement officers. So that will now also include university and college campus officers. We have been trying to oppose this throughout the whole system. It's expensive, it's time consuming, it's unpredictable for counties when we enter into those binding arbitration agreements. But this has been a very labor-friendly legislature, so I do not think we're successful this time around. It should hit the Senate floor any day now, and we expect it to pass.
Does that expansion to those other areas really affect counties, or are we already kind of captured in that initial draft or initial?
Yeah.
production?
We were just concerned about the county corrections officers, right. Universities and community colleges. That's a separate issue.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Madeline, on that. I'm sure you keep us updated as that moves through the Senate. We actually have a MAC workshop coming up at the conference, Collective Bargaining Trends moving forward. That is on the 2nd from 2 to 3. So if you're interested in learning more about collective bargaining trends, I encourage you to attend that. Sam, we've talked a lot about J&J legislation over the past few weeks. There was some movement on some bills last week as well. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes, the long-awaited committee vote on a good chunk of the bills in the juvenile justice package took place this morning. So now the child care fund legislation, as well as the MIDC expansion bill, have been voted out of the House Criminal Justice Committee. Fines and fees bills were voted out last Tuesday. So I think at this point, that's all 20 bills on the House floor. Again, that child care fund reimbursement increase, crucial for counties. And then we were able to alleviate concerns in the MIDC bill. So no increase to the local share. We've got partially indigent defendants included in this cost share from the state. So lots of progress there. And we've gotten to a place that we can support all 20 bills. So looking forward to those moving through the process. I think very quickly too. I think that the goal of the legislature is to have these bills on the governor's desk before they likely adjourn in November.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about timeline, Deena. Are we still hearing an early sine die, early?
We are. We're hearing that, they'll be here through the month of October. And then just the very beginning, week and a half of November. Typically the legislature breaks anyway after that second week of November, sometimes third week, but they break for hunting season, and Thanksgiving. But usually they come back for the month of December, and they're not going to do that this year. They're going to adjourn sine die. So the end of this legislative session, probably the 8th or 9th of November, I think is going to be the last session day. And then the legislators will be gone until January. So there really won't be any real committee action or any floor votes from, early November until sometime in the month of January.
Yeah,
It'll
so
be
and
short.
if also hearing possibly no Thursday legislative voting days, maybe in the House until then.
Okay, that's a rumor, Steve. We can't spread rumors until we have a better idea.
It's where we work. It's
Yeah, that's true. It is all rumor
but
mill,
if you
but
look at that puts only 12 voting days now between now and um that the November 8th day. So that's not a lot of time to get some pretty, still significant initiatives that were spoke about by the governor, other leaders to get done.
right. Right, but and we've got so many bills kind of in the hopper that speak to our 2023 priorities. So, they started to move the revenue sharing trust fund, which is high up on our priorities list. They started, hearings on veterans property tax reimbursement for us. The reimbursement for personal property tax is on our priorities list. Court funding has to get figured out by May of 2024 when that ends. We've got the juvenile justice stuff moving through the process. So we've got a lot of balls in the air right now. And with them limiting session days and committee days, it's making us a little nervous. We want to get it all done.
Yeah, so there's going to be, because of course when they do adjourn, everything gets raced, right?
No.
Everything goes away.
Nope.
Okay, so they still vote on because it is
Yeah.
still considered session, but they've ended.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's after the 2-year cycle. So every 2 years, then they, get rid of all the bills. The senators will stay, in their seats after this next election cycle, but, new House members come in and some turnover, which will be really interesting this year because now that term limits has changed, I'm not sure. I think there's just one member, right, in the House that is actually term limited out. And that's Dale Zorn, right?
yeah,
Former county commissioner of
Yes.
Monroe County. So we may not see as big of a turnover, just kind of depends on what the political parties do. Who maybe gets defeated, but not a lot of, one member being actually term limited out. So it'll be an interesting new cycle next year too, but getting ahead of ourselves.
yeah, and then you still have the dynamic of two Dem House members up for mayoral elections. That'll be decided in November, and that could impact the majority in the House. And then, of course, that affects what can get done. So a lot of still moving parts that, we still don't know where the pieces will fall, but we'll see and make sure to communicate that as we see it. But what we do know is that this weekend is the MAC conference. How about that segue? It's like I've been doing this for 20 years. We do have the MAC conference coming up this weekend with a variety of great workshops that folks will be able to take advantage of. We have a 2-part session on PA 51, so a part 1 and part 2 road funding session. And Madeline, I believe that one is being recorded, right? And we'll be able to broadcast that one.
Yes, it will be Ed Noyola from the County Road Association. And yep, we're going to film everything he says so everyone can go back and reference it anytime they need to.
Yeah, so that'll be nice to have that. So folks who didn't get to attend the conference can at least see that one, because that's one people typically ask questions about our PA 51 and how all that works, because there are a little moving parts to that. We do have a session on managing unfunded liabilities. We have a session on building a plenary session on building a multi-generational workplace. We have a plenary session on affordable housing, an issue that's hitting counties across the state in a variety of different ways. We hear about it a lot from a lot of different areas, not the areas you just think it would be, but even in rural areas of the UP where they're having a problem with affordable housing to employ their employers up there.
What's going to be good about that one, Steve, is that I believe they're going to talk about sort of the tools that are available to counties, that counties can actually get involved, get engaged in the affordable housing, movement so that they can make a difference. So I'm looking forward to that being extremely informative.
Yeah, because and I think you'd agree, Deena, that's something newer, like in the past 3 years, 4 years-ish, that we've started to hear more and more about here at the office from folks, is what can we do? Because prior to that, we really didn't hear much about housing. So I think that'll be a good opportunity for folks to learn about the ways they can contribute to helping the housing issue in their communities. Also, what I'm interested to hear more about is how AI is transforming the county operational landscape. So that gets to not only the chat GPT AI, but other forms of AI, and how, where does that fall into county government? And there's a whole swarm of things you have to think about, that ethics, how is it being used? Is it being used properly? When should it be used? When shouldn't it be used? And it's advancing so quickly that it's, you gotta kind of understand it at the base form now, so you can kind of keep up with it as it moves through. Because now I just read that chat GPT, there you can actually speak to chat GPT now. It's got a whole voice and personality, and will speak back to you instead of just typing things in. So it's moving quickly. It's unbelievable. So
But clearly this is Steve's favorite topic, I think, at the
It's-
conference. He's loved this one.
It's
Well,
the
it's-
nerdiest session available at the conference.
Well, I find it fascinating and somewhat scary at the same time. I do love technology, and I think it's a great thing, and sometimes moves faster than me, and my kids will tell you that. But this one is, I think, something that, it can really make you more efficient, but it can also, there's some drawbacks to it as well. So you gotta find that balance. So with that, quick podcast this week. We appreciate everyone joining us. We will not have a podcast next week because we'll be at our conference Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but look forward to joining everyone. I believe it'll be the 9th, the week after that, giving everyone an update from the conference and any sort of legislation that moved that first week of October. So unless anyone has anything else that I missed. Okay. Well, I appreciate your guys' jabs today, as always. So everyone have a great week.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Podcast 83.